All right, what's up, y'all? You are listening to the Indy Drills Podcast. It's a DB podcast. Glad to be on here with you. It's been not a month. It's been a month since I've been on, but I'm back here for you guys talking about DB secondary topics, all that good stuff. And of course, as always, sponsored by 101 DB Tips, the ultimate defensive back reference guide. We're getting into the season right now. And just because you're done with your offseason doesn't mean you need to just totally divorce yourself from all of these elements that make you a great defensive back. So I know some people think this is just an off-season book. It teaches you how to train. No, there's in-season stuff in here. There's stuff talking about how you should watch film, stuff that should be happening in game, whether you're a safety, whether you're a corner, whether you are a nickel back, stuff in there for coaches. Look, literally every aspect of the game is covered right here. So if you don't have this book yet and you're going into your season, you need it now more than ever. You can click the link in the description of this show, the Indy Drills Podcast. And once again, I'm happy to be with you guys. We're going to get into some things here, some news and notes on defensive backs going around. Some new contract was signed that I am personally very, very pleased about. So I'm going to talk about that among some other things. Oh, the big cover 2 controversy post that I had on Instagram that had some people's panties all in a bunch. Can't wait to talk about that and what it means for coaching and training and some lessons that can be taken from that. I'm going to talk about that on the show. Of course, there's always the mailbag question, a really, really good one this week. Looking forward to answering that one for you because I think it's a common thing for a lot of defensive backs, cornerbacks in particular. So this is a good question that's going to apply to a lot of people. So be happy and thankful that you are here and you're going to get the answer to that. Also, trouble with your eyes in press. That's a big problem. And if any of you are familiar with it, my defensive back camp is called All Eyes DB Camp. It is called that for a reason. The biggest thing you always got to correct as a defensive back are your eyes, whether you're in man or zone. Most of your problems are going to come from what you have done with your eyes. And so looking forward to answering that question and talking a little bit about that. And then, of course, the main topic, and that is how safeties can make a ton of plays this season just by studying the quarterback. Some really, really good tips for you there. Let's jump right into the news and notes. I spoke to you, as I mentioned the contract. I'm really, really happy about this one. The biggest contract that has been signed in the offseason for a defensive back so far belongs to Tyson Campbell, the Jaguars cornerback that is homegrown, so to speak. He was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he is going to remain a Jaguar. Really, really happy for him. He signed a really nice 4-year, $76.5 million contract extension with the Jaguars. They feel he's going to be a big part of what they do going forward, and I agree. He's a solid cornerback that is really a cusp of breaking out and being one of the top guys in this league. And, of course, the guy that I trained in the offseason, coached in high school, I had him, my son, Marco Wilson, and Pat Surtain in the same secondary, believe it or not. Those guys made me really, really look good. But I will say this, those guys put in the work. Now, you couldn't find more physically talented guys than those three. If anyone remembers their pro days when they came out, they all came out at the same time. It was the COVID year where there was not a combine, but if you just can go back and remember the numbers that those guys put up in their workouts, there's no doubt that they are physically talented individuals. They made up a 4x1 team in high school that at the time had a school record of 40.1, which is amazing because these weren't even full-time track guys. It's, by the way, has since been broken by this year's American Heritage team. So, hats off and shout out to Greg Barnes, the track coach there. He just keeps bringing in the talent and developing them and making them do great things. But nevertheless, we're talking about three very extremely talented guys. I knew they were talented However, did not just rely on that talent. These were extremely hardworking guys. They stayed out to practice every day. They were diligent in learning their plays and being in their playbook and studying film. So it's no surprise that these guys have made it to the next level, and it's no surprise that someone like Tyson Campbell is having success. And I'm especially happy for him because he was a running back when he came to high school, and one day was thrown into my individual period, and I really, really love my Indy period. I don't like it messed with, and I've got to be honest. Tyson Campbell messed with my Indy period that day. He was not very good. I could see that he had talent. I could see he was a physically talented individual, but just was not very good in any of the drills that day. But obviously, because he had the talent and he was a very respectful and diligent young man, it was easy to work with him. But I will say this: he put in the time. He knew he was not a defensive back at that time. He knew he had some deficiencies. And did he ever put in the work? So not surprised. People will look and say, oh, this guy was 6'2", 185 pounds. He could run a 10,400 meters. Of course he made it. I'm here to tell you, I'm down here in South Florida. I don't know where you guys are that you're listening to this. If you're in Georgia, Ohio, California, Texas, then of course you're around a ton of talent. And if you are, you have definitely seen guys with all of the physical tools and talent not make it. Just because you have the physical aspects and the physical tools and dimensions does not mean you're going to make it. And by make it, I mean even just in college. I'm not even just talking about NFL. Down in Florida, I've seen a ton of guys with all that talent just flame out. And it's not just because of off-field stuff. Yeah, that stuff happens. But guys just not willing to work that eventually get outmaneuvered by other guys who are, maybe as talented, but oftentimes not as talented, just more diligent in their work, more reliable, more consistent. And so Tyson is a guy who did not just rely on that. So 4 years, 76.5 million, 53 million guaranteed. That's he's set for life, folks. And I'm really, really happy to see that for him. Speaking of that, though, we've still got guys like Justin Simmons, all-pro safety, Xavier Howard, all-pro cornerback, Stephon Gilmore, probably a future gold jacket guy still out there. I don't know if that's by design. I don't know if these guys have gotten long in the tooth and they're just going to sit back and wait and say, hey, all pros and veterans don't love training camp. It's mundane. It's the same stuff over and over. Your body gets beat up a little bit. Now we've got 17 games in a 20-week season if you're getting into the playoffs and pretty deep. So it might be a little bit of that. Or, you know what? The market is not robust right now for those guys, and they probably come with a pretty nice price tag, and they should. Each one of those guys are top performers. They're all pros, and that's why it's noteworthy that they're still out there. But it's going to be interesting to see where these guys end up as teams suffer injuries and also realize they don't have what they need back there. They thought they did in the offseason, but it turns out they don't. So I fully expect those three guys to end up on someone's roster. And it's just going to be fun to see where they end up and where they land. I've had fun. This happens every year, and it's very tough to explain this kind of stuff to fans because, fans are fans. And a lot of these guys between PFF and Madden are experts at football, and you really can't tell them anything. But you see these one-on-one DB versus wide receiver videos that come out every year during training camp. I'm here to tell you guys those things are going to be heavily slanted towards the wide receivers. All right. I have guys that I train that send me videos of what they're doing in practice. It's usually one-on-ones, and they're getting some really, really good reps where they make plays. And I'll be damned, those things never make it to social media. It's very rare that I see those things on Instagram or Twitter. But what I do see is all of those top name receivers catching footballs in one-on-one and making their name, because that's what it's, even in the off season, even in training camp, offense rules a day, because that's what people want to see. And it just sounds really good when someone can say X so-and-so wide receiver cooked a DB on this route. That's what fans know. Cooked. He got burned, toasted, all those good things. So it's still slanted towards wide receivers. DBs are winning out there, folks. Okay, and I'm here to tell you, if you don't know this, if Madden and PFF didn't teach you guys and tell you guys this, 101 is an offensive drill. All right. A receiver can literally make 100 moves. He can use the entire field. There's no other person out there with him. There's no pressure on the quarterback. There's no hand in the face. There's no readjusting his steps, moving to a new platform to throw. It is an offensive drill. All right, guys. So, if you're a wide receiver out there, a fan out there, don't go crazy. I saw Giants fans going crazy, worrying about their secondary because there's constant video of Malik Neighbors catching footballs and getting open. I got news for you. He's also getting locked up at times in practice. That's not on social media for whatever reason. And this happens a lot with the rookies too. Nothing is better for clicks and engagement than a rookie that was drafted by a team doing well. So anytime he does well in practice, they're going to fire it up, unless you're JJ McCarthy. And for whatever reason, they want to put every bad throw out there for JJ. I'm going to tell you right now, there aren't two quarterbacks getting more flame and dirt thrown on their name in training camp than JJ McCarthy and Daniel Jones from the New York Giants. It's just unreal. The tone, I can't even use that word. So just the tone and the feeling around Daniel Jones in camp is just so negative. And I'm not saying the team. I'm just saying the media and the fans. He cannot throw a ball off line at all. Now, Patrick Mahomes can. Justin Herbert can. Joe Burrow can. All right. These guys can do that. Any errant pass by Daniel Jones is the end of the world, and it's pumped up to the 100th. And it's just going to be hard for a guy to operate in that climate. But nevertheless, it's a quarterback. We ain't worried about that here on the Indy Drills podcast. All right, and final thing is, man, hey, listen, Will Johnson is, if you've jumped on that new college football 25, you've paid attention to anything, he's perhaps your top defensive back, is definitely your top corner coming out this year. I had a chance to work with him just one session this offseason, but I'm believing the hype. Again, one session. But there's just some things that you notice about a guy. First of all, great movement skills. Nice eyes, obviously. But you can see that if you just look at the roster. But great movement skills, and then there's a diligence about his work, the way he goes about things, the meticulous attention to detail, and that's really what this position takes. You got to have some attention to detail. It's something I harp on a lot with high school kids that I train. There's a lot of small things at defensive back. Outside of quarterback, there are two positions where the little small things mean a whole lot, and that is left tackle and any position in the secondary, but in particular quarterback, because the mistakes made there are magnified. Mistakes at left tackle means the quarterback gets sacked and potentially hit hard and out of the game. A missed small little detail at cornerback means a big play, 60-yard, 70-yard, 80-yard touchdown. So I can see this young man being very much on top of the details, and that typically means success, especially when you combine it with the other skills that he has, which once again is great movement skills and great size. I would be looking forward to Will Johnson having a pretty good year for Michigan. And we don't know what Michigan is going to do this year. Well, actually, I have a thought on that, and you would have to tune into the Two Chumps Football Podcast later this week, or actually next week, because we're rolling these things out week by week. This week, we're doing the ACC and the AFC West, but the week after, we are going to break down the Big Ten as well as, I think, the AFC or the NFC South. That's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks here. So stay tuned for that. All right, that's it for the news. I want to get into this cover to post controversy. Look, I posted a play, an offensive play. I often do this. I have a DB quiz. I'll post this, weekly or at least 3 times out of the month on my Instagram account at All Eyes DB Camp. And I will put a coverage. I will post the offensive play. And I do have some of them that are animated. People always ask me how I did that. I grabbed that from the Washington Post, and I just thought it would be a good idea to run some of these plays and put a defense up, and ask people who would have which route in a particular coverage. So I ran this post. You guys would have to see it. Obviously, this is a podcast, so I don't really have the ability to put the play up here. If you're watching me on YouTube, I will try to have this play up where you can see it. But for those of you that are listening to this, you're just going to have to use your imagination on this. But basically, the play was 2x2 set with a wide receiver set to the defense's, with a running back set to the defense's right. And we had to the left a tight Z receiver with a tight end. All right. So you're going to have to use your imagination here. The tight end goes deep on a corner route. Okay. Tight end is going deep on a corner route. The Z receiver is immediately going under behind that tight end on a shallow route across the field. A little slightly higher than a shallow route. On the back side, we've got a dig by the number 2 receiver, and we've got a post by the number 1 receiver, right? The running back who is set to that side where you have the dig and the post is coming through the line of scrimmage. He's going under, and he's kind of rubbing with that Z that's going under, and then he's going to leak out into the flat. So my question was, who would have that running back out in the flat in cover 2? All right. The answer that I put on the quiz was the Sam backer. And you would not believe how people were throwing up in arms. It was like putting pineapple on a pizza and walking the streets of New York. People going crazy about it. Let me just say this. Number one, when it comes to coverages, very few things are etched in stone. You can take just about any coverage that's out there, and it has been tweaked by some coach somewhere. Some coaches run it one way. Some coaches run it another way. Some coaches run it another way. There could be like 4 or 5 iterations of one very simple coverage. That's number one. So I went with the iteration that I ran. The thing is, when I make these quizzes, there can only be one right answer. So for everyone who hit that button for corner, and the right answer I had was Sam, they, a lot of them lost their mind. Some of them have been playing football for quite some time, and I get it. Some of them, the cornerback would be the right answer in their defense that they play. Here's the thing, all right, when you encounter things, and I'm talking to you guys that are coaches out there, future coaches, guys with some aspirations. First of all, you should always be trying to learn as a coach. You definitely should be on that if you're early in your coaching career. So if you come across something like this, and it is totally devoid of anything that you learned when you were playing the game, and even if you've just started coaching and you guys do this differently, I would urge you to take an open mind to everything. I'm not saying you've got to divorce yourself from what it is you know, believe in, etc., etc. Keep an open mind. So I had, obviously, this post drew quite a bit of attention. I think it's over 500,000 views. The comments are limitless. I can't even tell you, well over 100 comments. We might be past 200 comments on it. I haven't looked lately, maybe even more than that. Inboxes and all that. All right. The smarter and better coaches and the good trainers inboxed me and said something to the effect of either A, man, how do you have Sam on that? Can you explain that to me? Or B, hey, this is how we do it. This is who the corner would have that route on this because we play it like this. How do you play it? And in that instance, I'm happy to answer that. Well, here's why I said the Sam. All right. Just for those who can picture that play in their mind, I am not saying that the Sam is going to go run over there and man-to-man that route. It's a shallow route. It's about maybe 2 or 3 yards steep. I'm not saying he's going to go hug the route up. Matter of fact, I full-on explained this in the All Eyes TV Camp members area. And with that, for those who have an open mind, or for those now, there's quite a few out there who agreed with me, and in their defense, Sam would be the first one on the scene if the ball was thrown to that running back. It just goes to show you that some people play cover 2 one way, others play it another way. There's like almost 3-4 ways that you can play cover 2. There's tamper 2, there's regular 2, there's all kind of little rules people put on there. And here's a reason why there are so many different rules, especially when it comes to high school football. When you're a coach and you're running a defense, you've got to tailor the defense to the talent that you have. That's number one. Number two is sometimes because of the kind of offenses you face or talent that you go up against in your particular conference, league, division, part of the country that you're in, you have to tweak a coverage, a standard coverage to handle the problems that you face. Being a defensive coordinator and coaching defense is just all about solving problems. You just look at it as 60 plays in a game, 60 problems that you've got to go out there and do your best as a coach to come up with 60 solutions during the game. All right. You're not going to come up with 60. You're trying, though, to come up with a solution for every one of those problems that are going to come up. And every play is a problem. So you come up with solutions, and sometimes it involves tweaking something, some coverage that is standard coverage run by someone else that you've had to make little changes because of your personnel and who's attacking you, how they're attacking you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So dialing this back to you guys needing to have an open mind is you can see how someone else does something and you can file it away and you can say either right away, nah, that's not going to work for us, or B, hey, that's interesting. Let me give that some thought. Now, that's not how we ran it when I played but that's interesting. Perhaps I could look into that. What's the harm in that? The guy that goes in there and says, oh, you're an idiot. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. How could you be running a page like this and saying something like that? Listen, I'm getting to this point in my life where there aren't a ton of people older than me who have put more time into this game than me. That's one of the advantages of getting older. All right. Forget about how I look. I've got some years in this thing. I've been playing football since I was 11 years old. Okay. And I'm a long ways away from 11. So I played my years of football, went into coaching football. Now I train football. It's going to be very hard for you to say you've got more experience than me doing this. Even with that, though, I'm always able to learn. And one of my biggest lessons in this was fairly early in my career, maybe 4 or 5 years into my high school coaching career. Started off coaching youth football. I was with the defensive coordinator who was, very strong, very strong-minded individual, had his ways and his rules and how he was going to run his defense. And this is how he needed these coverages played. And in the early going, a little back and forth, a little pushback from me. But at the end of the day, I said, listen, I'm not the coordinator. He's the coordinator. I'm going to try and go with this and make the best of it. Now, I was, a proponent of spot drop defenses. Didn't like giving high school guys, even though, when I played in college and for a cup of coffee in the pros, there was a lot of matchup zones because that was coming into vogue. Right. And I was at the University of Miami running cover 2. It was essentially a matchup zone. But I didn't favor doing this with high school football players. Just too much, I felt, for them to be thinking about, learning, too many if, ands, if this happens, that, and just too much thinking for me. And he was insisting on it. And in my mind, at first, I was like, no, man, I don't really agree with this at all. But I relented. I went with it. And I ended up learning something that I added to my repertoire. And by the time I left that first school and ended up at the next school, which ended up being American Heritage, I implemented so much of that stuff I was absolutely against in the beginning. By the way, defensive coordinator's name is Dave Simmons. His son, I think people are going to really have a chance to know who he is. He's the next guy up and coming at quarterback at Ole Miss. He's going to be that guy. Kid played at Pahokee, 6'3", lefty with a gun and some athleticism. Austin Simmons, write the name down. You guys are going to you're going to be hearing about him. His father was the guy, and I was against it. Relented, went with it, learned a lot, learned something new. I'd played more football than his dad, but his dad had coached more than me, so I learned something. Took it with me, made me so much of a better coach. When I got to that next school, and why I feel so strong in presenting this message to you guys. Always have an open mind. Don't thumb your nose up at anything. It doesn't matter where you played. It doesn't matter how long you coached. I can tell you this. I had college coaches that would come when I was coaching both at University School in Fort Lauderdale as well as American Heritage. And they're college guys, and they would look at my drills and say, hey, I'm going to do that. Or they'd ask me about a drill, or a coverage that I was running when I was a defensive coordinator. These are college guys. And I could just, not all of them now, but I could see some of them taking an interest in it and saying, hey, I think I'm going to add this. I think I like this. I like that drill. Never be that guy that's just so stuck because you just stop growing. So that's for all of you guys that tried to go off on me in the post, even though it was great for engagement when you guys go off like that. It's just, if you're a coach or a trainer, having a closed mind like that, never good. One thing I don't do is run around on Instagram and go to other trainers' pages and try to tell them in the comment section they're doing something wrong. What did they do that for? Or go correcting them in the comment section. What kind of trainer does that? I would never trust a trainer that runs around doing that. Guys like that flame out. They're young-minded, and it just never really ever goes well. If you really, really have a feeling about a drill or anything that you see, inbox that coach, send him a DM and find out what's up. 9 times out of 10, you have the wrong thoughts about that drill. All right. Now, I have taken some really way out. When I see something that's obvious, this is just for clicks, I will, make fun of it on All Eyes DB Camp. It's been a while since I've done that. That means I need to go out and get somebody. But just in general, something reasonable that just looks odd, just looks different from anything you've ever done, and go hit the guy's inbox and ask him why he's doing it. And at least let him explain it. You might learn something. That's happened I've asked some questions out there. And why do you do it that way? What are you getting out of that drill? I'm trying to learn something. Maybe I could implement it, or maybe I could use it and tweak it and add it with my guys. That's if you're trying to be good. If you're trying to be a comedian/trainer, then have at it. And I'm here to tell you, I'm for that also. We can go at it in the comment section. You're going to have a hard time there as well. So, hey, choose your weapon if that's the way you want to go. All right. Next thing I want to slide onto here is I always want to be able to talk to the players in this particular case. That last segment was really about coaches, but maybe a little bit for players as well, but more for coaches than anything else. This is where I talk to the players. Well, one thing I do want to talk to you guys about is your eyes in press. So many guys have a problem with this. And, usually when a guy comes to me, we'll end up doing some kind of a press drill. One of them, it's usually my 3-release drill where you partner up with another guy. The guy's a receiver, and he'll take 3 or 4 hard steps off the line of scrimmage just so I can see your first moves, see what your eyes are doing on this first 3-4 steps off the line of scrimmage. They'll come back, reset, do it again, do it 3 times, and then switch. So it usually shows me a lot. And one of the biggest issues I see with guys is what's going on with their eyes. Now, yes, they will line up and have their eyes at the hips at the beginning. And then for a lot of guys, the moment the receiver moves, the eyes go up. Now the eyes go up to the face, they go up to the shoulders. That stuff's moving fast. There's a lot of deception that could happen with the eyes and with the shoulders, and a guy gets lost, and it ends up being a bad rep usually. And some guys struggle with this more than others. So I will point it out. I will try to adjust, try to make some corrections on it. And for whatever reason, they just can't fix it. One of the best things that have worked for me in trying to correct that is when you have a guy, and if you're that guy and you have a problem keeping your eyes on the wide receiver's hips, once they move, once the ball is snapped, I've found great success in having a guy move his eyes down to the wide receiver's feet to start with. All right. And what I have observed over the many years with this is, for whatever reason, a guy's first move is picking the eyes up no matter what when the guy moves. And it's always seems to be the same amount of distance. So from the eyes up to the chest. From the eyes up to the chest. No matter how many times you say it, it's a really, really bad habit. For many of the guys that I've told, move your eyes down to his feet. The moment the guy moves, the eyes go up from the feet to the hips, which is where we want them anyway. So if you happen to be that guy and you're struggling with this, try that on, okay? It's going to feel a little weird in the beginning to be looking down at a wide receiver's feet. And if you happen somehow to keep your eyes there, the feet are going to be moving fast. You have to know what you're doing. However, that's not your issue. Your eyes aren't going to stay on his feet. Your eyes are going to go up from his feet to his waist, to his hips, and that's where we want them. It's very hard for a guy to have his eyes down at a receiver's feet and bring them all the way up to his chest and his face. I don't know the medical reasons, the biological reasons, the physiological reasons for this. It just happens, and I've observed this for years now. A guy with a serious problem with the eyes going from the hip to the face, when he brings them down and starts at the feet, they tend to go to the hips, and then we're good. If they're locked on the hips after that first millisecond that comes with the first move, we're good. That's where we want your eyes. Lock them in on the hips. You just needed, for whatever reason, to move your head up slightly when the ball was snapped. So that's just a little pro tip that I wanted to throw in there for you guys. You guys try that on for size that happens to be happening to you. If all you do is train by yourself and you don't have a coach that's on the details like that, you may not know that you're doing that. So you either have got to watch film, or you've got to ask your buddies to watch your eyes, okay? And for some of the coaches, I know a lot of times when you're doing one-on-ones in practice, you like to stand behind the DBs. I get it. I understand that's just kind of a standard thing to do. Every now and then as a coach, or even as a trainer, if you're around when they're doing one-on-ones, you've got to take yourself around to the other side, look from behind the wide receiver to your DB, and pay attention to what his eyes are doing. Now, when you have been doing this for a while, you can see a guy's eyes from behind his head. And what do I mean by that? Yeah, you can take that stance behind the DBs in one-on-ones, and based on what you see that DB do, you can come to a pretty good conclusions as to what his eyes did. But until you get to that point, it is going to be in your best interest. I did this early in my coaching career, to spend some of those reps standing on the other side where you could see your DB's face, and pay attention to that, because the eyes are so important. A player cannot see his eyes. He can't feel his eyes, can't see his eyes. And unfortunately, a majority of the mistakes made by a defensive back are come with the eyes. And if you're not coaching the eyes, you're not seeing the eyes, you're not training the eyes, you are doing yourself a disservice. Really, you're stopping yourself from reaching your full potential. So as a coach, do yourself a favor, get around there and see what a guy's eyes are doing and correct it the moment you see it happening. You only get to so many reps with a guy. So you have to coach that out. It takes a long time. It takes a whole lot of training and discipline and consistency and constant correction to fix your eyes. So if you let a rep go here and there, you're missing a very good opportunity to get this guy on the right path and set up a certain amount of consistency to where he can do things automatically in a game and be able to do it without thinking about it. So the moment you see the eyes are wrong as a coach, trainer, correct it, fix it, get on it. Don't let those things slide. All right. So that's how you fix that. Let's go to the mailbag. I have a very good question right here from Corey in San Bernardino, California, a part of the world I am, a part of the country I am familiar with. I went to high school for 2 years in the neighboring county, Riverside County, to San Bernardino County. So always cool when I can get some California mail, especially Southern California. And that is Corey in San Bernardino. He says, I'm a pretty good corner when playing off, but when I play press, I have a problem opening the gate. Welcome to a lot of guys' world. My coach keeps correcting me, but I haven't been able to fix. All right. Fortunately, and this again is Corey in San Bernardino. Fortunately, Corey, there is a fix to this problem. As I've always, like I said, when you're coaching, you're just dealing with problems. All right. You're just dealing with problems. And this is a problem, fortunately, Corey, that can be fixed. There are a couple of things that you need to check here that can help you out with this. One of the biggest reasons that guys open the gate is the first reason is you're not very good in your lateral movement And in press, that means a kick slide. All right. That means a kick slide or, and no, it definitely means a kick slide. Even if you're playing a soft press, whether you're inching out or you are motoring out, at some point, the receiver tries to go left or right, and you need to have some kind of a kick slide. All right. If you're using motor, you're opening the gate, and that's just part of the technique. You're really just trying to stay over the top. I'm assuming in this situation, you're playing some kind of hard press, or at least you're attempting to be at that line of scrimmage, being intimidating force, and you want to get your hands on the wide receiver when he comes off, but you are not really doing that the way that you want because you are opening the gate. And one of the big reasons for that is you do not feel comfortable in your kick slide. You don't have a very good one, so that move is unnatural. You don't trust it. And the moment that receiver gets outside of your frame, you don't trust yourself to be able to kick slide to stay close to him. So you have to open and prepare yourself to run out of the field because, of course, you don't want that receiver running past you and getting leverage on you up top to where you can get bombed on a post or, a go route. That's number one. So you're going to have to work on your kick slide, and I'm here to tell you it's going to take some time to do that. You're going to have to commit yourself to that. Probably spend 5 or 10 minutes a day, at least after or before practice, working on your kick slide to where you get very, very good at it. You're efficient in it, and you can trust it now when you line up in front of a receiver. That's number one. Number two is a lot of times, especially at the high school level, DBs are lining up too close to the wide receiver. All right. You obviously see this at camps and 7-on-7 events where referees are not really managing that. There's no one to stop this from happening. I have seen DBs at camp line up with their chest damn near resting on the their head damn near resting on the wide receiver's chest. I don't know any good wide receiver that would allow that to happen, but you're at a camp, so there are young guys out there that just don't know any better and allow it. But I don't know why, as a DB, you would want to line up like that when you know full well you will not be able to get that close in the game. So if you go to camps and you line up like that, and that's how you practiced all off season, and you got comfortable doing that, then you get in a real game in the end season, and the referee's telling you you're offsides and you got to back off. You're gonna have a hard time covering that wide receiver because you have zero time under your belt practicing being that far off of the wide receiver. That's number one. So you've got to adjust your depth. And I have really been hard on this for the last couple of years with guys knowing their depth. Okay. It's similar to getting in the batter's box as a batter. If you've watched any kind of baseball at all, you'd notice that a batter comes in and he knows where he wants to be in that batter's box. He knows his reaction time and he lines up there all of the time. The only times he really adjusts is when there's a different kind of pitcher. So if the pitcher's slower, he's got a lot of curveballs, he'll slide up, move closer to the box a little bit so he can catch the ball before it breaks and kind of time the bat up a little bit. And if a guy's throwing heat 100 miles an hour, he will get to the absolute back of that box because he needs all the time he can get to see the ball and try to put the bat on it. Same as when you are playing press man. If you've got a guy that's super quick off the line of scrimmage, you need to back up a little bit because you don't want to get surprised by that first move. The surprise by that first move is what makes a guy open his hips right now, open the gate and turn it into a track meet. And if that guy's quick like that, he's probably fast. And now you're turning it into a track meet. And there's a very slim chance of you winning that constantly. There's no consistency in that. He's going to beat you a couple of times. And really, it only takes for that to happen once or twice in the game for it to be a really bad game for you and your team. So let's back off a little bit. Let's work on that kick slide. And now you can use angles to kick and stay on top of that wide receiver and make him come way off of his line to run his route. If you just open the gate, that guy can run in a straight line. He can run the route the way, and we don't even, it's not just 9 routes that become the problem. He can run the entire route tree. He's going to be able to come off the ball in a straight line, just like it's written in the playbook, and break the routes off the way that he wants, as opposed to you being able to kick slide, change the angle, move him way inside or way out. Imagine moving a receiver way outside near the sidelines and he's got to come back. That's just going to be not going to be a successful route for that wide receiver. There just isn't enough space for him to break. There isn't enough space for the quarterback to put that ball in. Likewise, if he's got to go run a curl, or if he's got to go run a dig or a post. When you move him off that line, it changes the angle, it changes the timing. And the only real ways for you to do that is to get really, really good at your lateral movement, meaning your kick slide. You're going to have to practice it, and backing yourself up. The only time I would advise a guy to get really, really close to a wide receiver, and obviously there's a limit to how close you can get, is if you plan on touching him almost immediately upon his movement. If you're not going to touch that guy on his first move, if you don't have the ability to, or you don't have the intentions of doing that, there is no reason, zero reason for you to line up that close to the wide receiver, because his first move is going to put you under pressure. His first move is going to put him almost even with you, left or right, with his hips facing up the field and your hips facing down the field. That's not the position you want to be in, because his next step is going to be down the field. Your next step at best is going to be sideways to try and open up. His third step is going to be down the field. And then finally, maybe if you're really quick, your third step will get your hips all the way around. By that time, he's already a couple of strides past you and already has his speed going while you're trying to get your speed going. That is not the position you want to be in. So don't line up an arm's length away from that wide receiver unless you plan on touching him right now. And then I don't recommend that you do that, because as you move up in football, you're going to find that those wide receivers are further and further back. Okay, by the time you get to the professional level, these guys can line up so far off the line of scrimmage that you think it's a penalty, but they allow it. Okay, that left tackle is sitting way back. He's allowed to cheat. The receiver is cheating off of him, and you just don't get that close. So you might as well start working on that now, where you have about 1.5 yards between you and that wide receiver. You develop a kick slide. You know how to mirror a guy and move left or right when he's moving left or right. Keep yourself in front of him. All right, Corey in San Bernardino. That is the answer to that question. If you need any more help with that, or any of you out there have a defensive back question, feel free to hit the mailbag. That means send me an email to cwilson@alleyeasdbcamp.com. Again, that's cwilson@alleyeasdbcamp.com. All right, time now to move on to the main topic, and that is how to read the quarterback like a book if you're a safety. I know I talk a lot about cornerbacks in this. You could say I'm a little slanted towards cornerback. You could say something like that. Not always true. I love the whole secondary. Matter of fact, I really love the trench play, which doesn't really make sense for a guy that played in the secondary, especially cornerback. But I really love what goes on in the trenches there. But I also love safety play, and this topic is definitely for the safeties out there, for the defensive back coaches that coach safeties. This is definitely a good one here as we start to come into the season. The safeties, the guys that can read the quarterback, that can do that very well, are going to be the guys that end up making a lot of plays this offseason. And hey, we all want interceptions, right? So the best way for you to do that is be really good at reading the quarterback, because the quarterback is basically the linchpin of the offense. Everything runs through him. Hell, they're making all the money now anyway. All right. But it's the quarterback's decisions on the offensive side of the ball that is what makes the offense go. Likewise, if you're a safety, the decisions you're making back there could be game changing as well. So it's you, the quarterback of the defense, versus the quarterback of the offense. And the better you get at being a quarterback on the defensive side, the better the whole defense will be. And you'll notice you just start making a lot of plays. All right. So the things you need to focus on are pre-snap adjustments. You've got to really study the quarterback's eyes, his body movement, post-snap, even pre-snap. Guys will give stuff away pre-snap. I always tell guys about this. There was a year where one of these fantasy geeks was studying so hard, he noticed there was a different stance for Ben Roethlisberger before the ball was snapped, when he was going to hand off versus when he was going to throw. I mean, that's fairly valuable information if it gets out there. And sometimes that will happen. I tell this story also when I was coaching. There was a very good quarterback. Guy ended up going Power 5. We ended up having to play against him. And through study, we noticed that he really could not and did not want to throw to his back side. Everything had to be to the front side. And so the team, as we started to notice, would run plays to get the ball back over to the left hash anytime the previous play took the ball to the right hash. They wanted to throw the ball, they had to get the ball to the left hash. So they'd run reverses, they'd run jet sweeps, they would run screens to get the ball back over to the left hash so they could run more traditional pass plays that allowed them to look to the right. It was a damnedest thing. But you can get pre-snap reads. And that's where everything needs to start. You need to begin your analysis before the snap. You've got to study the offensive formation. You've got to study the personnel, tendencies. Certain guys in the game mean certain things. Sometimes a team will take their playmaker and put him in different spots. You got to love when that happens. Yes, it could be a bit of a pain in the ass trying to figure out what you guys are going to do, but teams that do that really kind of give away their play. So I always like when a team has a playmaker, but they try to put him in the backfield. They try to put him at a wing. They put him number 2 in the trip set. They put him at number 1 in the trip set for a certain play. He'll be number 3 in a trip set. The Cincinnati Bengals tend to do that with Jamar Chase. And sometimes for a guy like myself, it really gives away the plays that they're going to do. So even things down to the quarterback's cadence, the rhythm, try to study everything and try to notice a pattern there. Like I said, be aware of where certain key players are located. Some teams run the whole offense through a certain player on a receiver. So, for example, the Chargers, a lot of what they did when he was there ran through Keenan Allen. So, you focus on that guy and that could kind of tell you what's going on. All right. The next obvious thing is eye tracking. When that ball is snapped, focus on the quarterback's eyes if the coverage allows you to do that. There are other reliable indicators of his intended target. If his eyes look onto a receiver, he's likely to throw in that direction, especially in high school football. If you guys are blitzing, if you're bringing 5 guys, very few quarterbacks at that level have the ability in the face of pressure to look one way and then come back the other. So, a lot of teams out here will run 5 and 6 man pressure in cover 1. If you're that post safety, 9 times out of 10, and you'll study film to know if you can do this or not, but 9 times out of 10, you can go where that quarterback looks first, especially if it's looking deep, and get a really good break on the football. All right. But again, film study will really help you hone in on the tendencies. Sometimes a guy will have the same rhythm versus pressure, and he sees one safety in the middle of the field. He'll look to the left. That means he's throwing right. Or he'll look to the right and then throw left. Pick up any pattern. I'm telling you, quarterbacks are creatures of habit. Offensive coordinators are creatures of habit. They feel pressure. They get into pressure situations, and they hardly start trying stuff new when they get into those situations. When they feel that pressure, they're going to do something that they're comfortable with, that they've been doing for a while. And if you study film, you're going to know what those things are. Some quarterbacks just flat out stare down receivers. Sometimes it's not even in pressure. It's in zone where you're only rushing 3 or 4, and they'll stare down their receiver. If you get that kind of quarterback, you've got to take it better. You've got to rob that guy, okay? If he's going to stare down receivers, you have got to rob that guy. It is your job to take that ball off of him. If nothing else, teach him a lesson, but also help you guys win a game. So get a beat on those tendencies. Another great thing that you can do is route recognition. Certain routes have combinations that are going to be run. You can't have an outside receiver run a hitch and an inside receiver run an out route. Okay, certain things pair up together with each other, like a certain wine with certain food. That's how it is with routes. Okay, there's a slant and there is the flat combination. There's the curl flat combination. There is the mesh. There's smash. All right, everyone knows smash. A hitch outside and the corner route inside. Get to know as many of those combinations as possible. Y cross, mesh, smash, double post. All right. Being able to read one route and know what other route is coming with it is a superpower. And not enough guys pay attention to that. They're surprised by everything that's happening on the field. Don't be that guy. Understand what routes go with other routes. Some of the better players that are out there really understand. A guy that I train, Xavier Howard, has really good route recognition. He could see one route being run by another guy and know what the route is that's going to be happening in front. Part of this was the fact that he played quarterback in high school But the better you can get at that, the better you can be at anticipating what's coming. And wouldn't it be great to not have to just react on a moment's notice to everything that's going on in the field? When you have the more and more situations where you can anticipate what's coming, is going to put you in a better position to make those plays. All right. The next thing is recognizing dropbacks. Guys don't do enough work on that either. There's so much emphasis. If you just take a look at any of these quarterback coaches and listen to them coaching up their quarterbacks or training them in the offseason, there's so much emphasis made on their steps, where they're looking, how they turn, how many steps they're supposed to take, three long steps and 2 short steps, what they do after the play fake. It's so meticulous. Has to be so consistent that they can't really go deviating from that. So if you go and study that, and you know that this particular drop back means these kind of routes, then you're there. You're in a really, really good place, because they can't realize in the middle of a game that you're doing that and then go change the footwork that he spent all off season, all training camp, and all week doing. He's got to keep doing that same footwork, and that footwork coincides with the routes. All right. That's why some guys read a 3-step. All right. A quarterback takes a quick 3-step drop, means the routes are short. You're getting hitches, you're getting slants, you're getting quick outs. He can't now change that to a 5-step drop, because he knows you're looking at him when the routes are going to be short. The routes are going to be there already, and he's not going to be ready to throw. They can't change the routes and keep the same footwork. He's going to be ready to throw, and they're not going to be ready to catch. All those things come together. One of the great guys at doing that in the league is Trevon Diggs, and that's why that guy had 11 interceptions a couple of seasons ago. He understands that the quarterback's footwork marries up with the routes that are being run. And finally, you're just the offensive tendencies. Okay, again, offensive coordinators are creatures of habit. Quarterbacks are creatures of habit. The offensive coordinators impose their characteristics and their, just the way that they are, right? Their whole personality is now onto the quarterback. So they want to do certain things in certain times. So just learn what those tendencies are. What plays do they love in 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6? Is it the stop route? Is it the slants? They're not going to really deviate from that, all right? Who do they like to throw to? We know the Kansas City Chiefs are going to on 3rd and 6, right? Stuff like that, all right? So fortunately for you, if you're playing high school, college ball, you aren't facing a Travis Kelce, all right? And so you can make some plays there, and by jumping some routes, because they're trying to get the ball to this guy, or they're trying to run this route, get the offensive tendencies. And none of this is possible without you studying film. And as much film as you think you're studying, you need to study more. Put the time aside. When the season comes, man, cut some things out of your schedule. All right, cut down the PS5 time or whatever, TikTok scrolling time, and put a little extra time into studying film. You will thank me later, because you can pick up on all these things that I'm telling you about. And it's just going to, listen, if it turns into 3 extra interceptions for you this year, so if you go from, I was going to have 3 interceptions to 6, or I go from 6 to 9, or I would have had 7 and now I'm double digit, all of the film study would have made sense. And everything that I talked about in this, you're going to get from that film study. So whatever amount of film study you did last year, start thinking about upping it. Think about doubling it. And again, it's one of those things that will just pay off. By the time you get to the playoffs, you are going to be so happy that you did all that film study. All right. So those are the ways as a safety that you're going to be able to read the quarterback like a book. And if you can decode the quarterback, you're on your way to being a playmaker. It's like all these video games that you play. It's like you got to the big boss, and at the end, you figured him out, and now you're going to win the game, and you're going to rack up points or whatever it is that makes you feel good. The quarterback runs the show. You figure the quarterback out. You figure the offensive out. Figure the offensive coordinator out. You figure the team out. Now you're going to be a playmaker, and your team's going to have a really, really good chance to win. All right. That's it for the Indy Drills podcast. Look, I appreciate all you guys coming on. If you have not had a chance to do it yet, go ahead and subscribe to the show, whether you're listening to me on one of those podcast streamers, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, whatever you're listening to me on. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, first time here, you've been here for a while, and for some godforsaken reason you have not yet subscribed to this channel, you need to do that, because I'm going to keep putting out Indy Drill Podcast shows like this. And on top of that, I'm putting out stuff on both recruiting as well as other defensive back topics, videos that I've made here. There are a ton of them on this channel. You will literally lose a whole day just going through all of the different videos that I have here. And I've got two of the ultimate reference guides for you that's just going to really elevate your play. Again, we're into the season. You guys want the interceptions. You want to be All-Americans. You want to be top guys. You want to be recognized. And take yourself a copy of this book right here, 101 DB Tips, everything that you need to know about playing defensive back. And yes, that includes stuff that you're going to need in season, like how to watch film, how to pick up on some things, how to play nickelback, how to play corner, safety, and of course, drills, workouts, all that other good stuff right here in 101 DB Tips. And then you should strongly consider coaches, trainers, players joining the All Eyes DB Camp members area. Over 250 videos in there talking about breaking down technique, breaking down coverages with tips, drills, workouts, etc. All for your viewing and to raise your game to the next level. A powerful combo, the book and the membership, and there's no telling how far you can go. The sky's the limit if you're doing something like that. So links to both in the description. Check them out, and you're well on your way. You're well on your way to reaching your full potential. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to head out. Thanks for watching the Indy Drills Podcast. And as always, guys, consistency breeds results. See you next time.